just overwhelmed whenever I come back home here to Detroit, Sister Joanne. Because I always get a chance to interrelate with beautiful people who have been so much fundamentally part of my life. I just have worked with so many of you on so many different levels, and it's just such a rich experience. It gets me kind of teary-eyed, you know, when I come to Detroit. This truly is home for me. I want to say that my hero is here today, all right? And this might surprise you, but my hero is my son. That's Cam. And right next to him is my nephew, Reggie. That's Brother Reggie.
All right.
And my sister is here, Sister Shoshana. Okay. So we have our Lumumba, Shakur, and Taliaferro, Finley, Barrel connection. But Cam is my hero because, see, Cam kind of represents a lot that we have to struggle against.
That's right.
Cam was my oldest son. He is my oldest son. And like so many of us fathers, and it's good to talk about this on Father's Day, I wasn't that good at being a father at first, right? It took some work. And so I got a lot better with the second two children, and they profited from that. But Cam got lost out there in that world of social destabilization for us.
Come on.
That world right here in Detroit, and it carried on to some extent to New York and then to Jackson, Mississippi. And so some wayward brother, some anti-social behaving young man, shot him in the head in February of 1993. But the reason why he's my hero is because he rose above it, right?
Yeah, right.
He still carries physical scars, but his spirit keeps us going all the time. His spirit keeps us going all the time. So he becomes, along with the political prisoners, along with the exiles, along with those who have passed before us and who have now departed, and along with many of the brave revolutionary comrades like Sister Joanne and Brother Paul and all those people here that have made a contribution to this, he becomes the reason why we strike.
That's right.
We've come here today on a very important occasion. And I'm reminded as I sit here that not far from here is the Recorder's Court.
That's right.
And the Recorder's Court is another fundamental part of my development, and it's a fundamental part of life in America today.
That's right.
Because it represents an institution that partakes in the incarceration of more people than any other place in the world. The United States of America incarcerates more people than any other place in the world.
All right.
More than China, more than Cuba, more than Russia, more than any other place in the world. And too disproportionately. You know, and this really speaks to this day, right? It really speaks to this day. This is a great day. It's a great day because it represented one of the millstones in our people's struggle for freedom. And it was a great day, I'm sure, when in 1865, when the general rode in and told our people that they were no longer enslaved, right? They never were slaves. They were just enslaved. Right? They're always human beings. Don't ever forget that. And so that brightened their spirits. That helped give them a certain qualified freedom. Qualified freedom. And so it was in 1863 of January 1st when Abraham Lincoln was forced to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. He didn't do it because he liked you.
Right, that's right.
He didn't do it because he believed in freedom of all people. In In fact, in his debate with Davis when he was running for office, he said it smack on. I, like any other white man, believe that one race has to be first and the other one after that, and I'm, of course, for the white race. That's what he said. So he let you know that he was a white supremacist. But he also realized, in a certain degree of practicality, he was a little smarter than some of the southern plantation owners, the southern aristocracy. Because he could see the wheels turning in the world, and he understood that slavery had headed today, at least slavery the way that they exercised slavery. So he was one of the perceptive white racists, perceptive white supremacists, who understood that the institution had to be modified. It had to be qualified. He wasn't ready to give up what the problem was. Because you see, the problem never was flavor. The problem was the fact that we had lost our self-determination and we were taken from Africa. The problem didn't start when we got enslaved. The problem started when they snatched the first African off the coast of Africa. That's when the problem.
That's right.
And that's still the problem today. The problem is not just that you've been discriminated against. The problem is that you don't make the decisions that control your life.
That's right.
The problem is not that you don't get paid enough. The problem is that you don't run the businesses that pay you. That's the problem. The problem is a fundamental problem. Malcolm called it colonialism, but that's what it is. Colonize people. And so, understanding that this colonization needed to go on, Lincoln sought out first to try to fix the situation in a different way. He was going to send you the hell out of here. That's what he was going to do. Right? So he got Seward and he sent him around the world to try to find a space that he could send all the black people to. Seward came back to him and said, well, look, man, we got problems. Right? He said, if we took every one of those Negroes to the nearest place and we took every ship we had and stole some ships and borrowed some ships, by the time we got back here, they'd already had more babies than the ones that we took out of here. Right? So Lincoln couldn't deal with that resolution. So what he did is accepted what was before him, a way to create what we call qualified freedom. And so he created that in 1863 so that the Union could help win the war. And black folks entered into a very fragile alliance with the Union, a very fragile alliance which some people realized was fragile, like Martin Delaney realized it, like Harriet Tubman realized it, but some people thought it was more than it was, like our good brother Frederick Douglass. That's what he thought, right? He really thought that it really meant something. He really believed in the Union. He really thought that we could work this thing out because he was persuaded by good white people, and there were good white people. There was Thaddeus Stevens and Charles Sumner who really believed in equality. But what he didn't understand is that they didn't hold the keys to the car, right? They couldn't open the door and they couldn't close the door. They were just two white boys out there whistling in the wind. That's all they were. Because those who controlled the society would make the decisions. And so we entered into this qualified freedom. This freedom which meant that you didn't have to work in the field from sun up to sundown all the time, especially if you wanted to starve to death, right? Especially if you didn't want anywhere to live, right? Especially if you wanted to be what we now call homeless, right? Now, of course, before you could turn your back and before that could even set in, they passed the black codes that made it illegal for you to be out there without a job. And so you had to come back into the same enslavement situation. This was what Lincoln's contribution to your freedom was, a qualified contribution. And then so we went on to 1865 and we went to the Emancipation Proclamation announcement in Texas, and we had another announcement of a qualified freedom. But it made people happy because you could understand that if you were a slave on a plantation, you were happy to know that no longer would the plantation be able to make you come to work, be able to own you and treat you like a dog and beat you like a dog. Now, actually, it didn't cease there. because much of what was done by the plantation owner now would be done by the local police chief, would be done by the county prosecutor, would be done by the governor of the state, would be done by some other racist white supremacists that would continue to treat you in the same manner. But at least it was a hope. It was some kind of expression of a qualified freedom. And then in 1865, in December the 6th, there was what we call the 13th Amendment. And the 13th Amendment was just full of all kinds of expressions of quote-unquote freedom. Actually, if you want to study the United States law, the 13th Amendment was the best law that they ever passed. Of course, it was a law that they have never enforced, right?
That's right.
But it was the best law that they ever